very well. And yeah, history tells us that things that are unmanaged, for fisheries managers, they are familiar with open access. Things that are unmanaged, they don't always perform well, and that's why we need to manage our fisheries. But while these are the kind of biological, ecological component of why we manage fisheries, we trust our fisheries scientists. In our case, in the Pacific, we trust the SPC, that's Nico Henny's team, to do the science work for us. Well, for us in the Pacific, we manage fisheries, and our perspective on why we need to manage fisheries is related to the importance of fisheries to us as government, as people, as community, as women, and who we are in the Pacific and in communities. So approximately 28 million square kilometers combined EEZ of the Pacific provides food security, livelihoods, government revenue, and employment opportunity for our people. For food security, more than 80% of households consume fish weekly. Fish consumption increased by 3.2 per annum or per year. And national average consumption per person per annum range from 30 kilogram to 150 kilogram. And as you can see here, Tokelau, Kiribati, Solomon Islands, Tuvalu, I think, they were recorded with the highest consumption of fish. But I do understand that this is, the data here is related to population as well. So if you're interested to have a look at this paper, I provided the reference there for information. In the Pacific, more than 70% of people, they live in rural areas, so that's a high dependency on coastal fisheries as well. People here, they use, people in the Pacific, they rely on coastal fisheries for both food security and livelihoods. For most of us in the Pacific, fisheries is our only source of government revenue, especially from our oceanic tuna fisheries. Countries like Kiribati fisheries provides up to or between 70 to 80% of the budget every year. So that's really important for them, and that's why they do need to manage the fisheries. Employment opportunity, this is also very important for us. It provides both employment opportunities at the informal and formal level, and also at the domestic and international level. What is fisheries management? Fisheries management usually consists of 3 key parts, and it involves a multidisciplinary approach to achieve optimal use and sustainability of fisheries resource. Science is really important part of decision making in fisheries management, but to inform science, data collection and stock assessment is required. However, we all know, when it's being presented earlier, we all know that data is always an issue. There is always uncertainty about the fisheries, so this needs to be considered or acknowledged as part of decision making. Management, very complex, because we manage people, we do not manage fish in fisheries management. So make it more complicated or complex. We manage people, their relationship, and their actions. Stakeholder engagement is, and that's why stakeholder consultation and engagement is really important. As Nico just presented earlier, monitoring and compliance, very important part of fisheries management. A successful fisheries management is one that can be enforced through monitoring and compliance. And there's no point to have a fisheries management if we can't enforce it. Most of the points here have already been said and presented, but the common management principles and approaches that are used throughout the Pacific, both for offshore and inshore fisheries, includes precautionary approach, adaptive management approach, ecosystem, customary approach, and which has had a very good presentation, interesting presentation in detail of customary approach, and community-based approach, which also mentioned briefly by Nico. There are different ways of managing a fishery. Each one of them has its own potential and risk, but the good news is that more than one approach can be used. It can be a combination of all of this. It really depends on the type or the conditions of the fishery that is going to be managed. And I will not go into detail of this because well, they are self-explanatory by the name given. How do we manage our fisheries? And we use input and output controls. Input controls are measures that directly constrain any aspect of fishing effort. They are indirectly control, or these indirectly control the amount of fish to be taken, and they are the who, when, how, and where is allowed to fish. On the other hand, output controls are measures that directly limit the amount of fish taken out of the fishery, and they are the what and how much is allowed to be fished or to harvest. Some examples are here, which most of you may be very familiar with, is putting, for output control, some examples is putting limits on the maximum number of licenses or permits, or number of hooks, lines, pods, net length, specified open access or closed area, open areas and closed areas, and also seasonal opening and closed fishing. Output control, some examples are total allowable catch, total allowable commercial catch, and can they also be individual allocations or daily limits. Fisheries management objectives. Fisheries managers often design and develop objectives around 3 key dimensions, or more than 3, depending on the fishery to be managed, but they are around ecological, biological, economic, social, and cultural. And with the increasing recognition of the impact of the concern over climate change impact on fish migration and the overall ecosystem, there has been an increasing recognition of climate to be considered or given special importance consideration in the decision making, or as part of the design in developing the fisheries management objectives. What we want to achieve out of fisheries management objectives are to maintain the balance between sustainability and use, and that's and I would like to say that through smart mixes, we should be able to provide improved or better management measures or management objectives to achieve fisheries management plans. Understanding smart mixes or smart regulation. And smart mixes bring private rule-making institutions together norms, oversight, and market logics to influence and coordinate public regulatory goals. Smart mixes initiatives encourage coordination, cooperation, and an effective use of regional and other support services to influence positive change. And many of previous speakers also referred to positive change. They need to have them, and they need to have the right incentive to be part of the policies, part of the regimes, and part of the management measures to influence change. And for example, in the development of maybe a coastal fisheries management plan. The notion of smart mix has been used widely in understanding or in differentiating the old control regulation approach and the new approaches or new management approaches that provide or that bring in better coordination with or between the state and the user or the user group. Second part of my presentation will be looking at how it works or what has been happening at the Pacific, at the regional fisheries and in relation to coastal, the management of coastal fisheries. So there have been a significant change over time, and this is first from the national level, and because this starts historically in the Pacific and prior to 2003, regional agencies have been long focused on the management and development of the tuna or oceanic fisheries, with less to zero focus on the support and management of the coastal fisheries. While regional fisheries are not focused on supporting coastal fisheries, at the national level, government have been focused on doing this, but with less support, let's say less support from the regional agencies. So that has been a challenge at the national level with limited capacity. So 2003, and I have my note here, so I have to ensure that I say the things right in relation to historical evolution or evolving our regional policy. But by 2003, increasing concern over coastal overfishing led to the first regional policy, and that's the strategic plan for fisheries management and sustainable coastal fisheries in the Pacific, that was endorsed by 8 of fisheries, Pacific Island countries and territories, 8 of fisheries. So that was the first kind of, or the initial regional policy that come to play with regards to coastal fisheries. And by 2007, the concern reached the Pacific Island Forum leaders, who in that year, 2007, they placed a high priority on the development and management of coastal fisheries and aquaculture to support food security, sustainable livelihoods, and economic growth for current and future generations of the Pacific. And this was agreed and adopted as the Wavau Declaration on Pacific Fisheries Resources. By 2008, the APIA policy, also known as the Pacific Islands Regional Coastal Fisheries Management Policy and Strategic Actions, 2007 to 2013, was also adopted and agreed at the regional level. And after that, after 2008, a number of reviews at the national level and at the regional level and sub-regional working groups, they progressed work in trying to coordinate efforts and agreements for regional approach towards the management of coastal fisheries. 2015, I'll say maybe a good year or major year for Pacific regional coastal fisheries. So there was a Melanesian spearhead group roadmap for inshore fisheries management for coast sustainable development 2015 to 2014. And the major one is the new song for coastal fisheries, pathways to change, the NOMEA strategy, and there's also a regional roadmap for sustainable Pacific fisheries. And in that, if I'm right, it was through this kind of instrument or agreement that's the recognition of the community, co-management, the community, the role of community, the role of gender, women, and youth, and the marginalized group were recognized as part of the fisheries management in the Pacific, and especially at the coastal fisheries. All of this, they follow or they align well with the international instrument on voluntary guidelines for securing sustainable small-scale fisheries. And Kathleen already talked on this in detail, so I won't explain that, but it also complements the code of conduct for responsible fisheries. And I would say that that would be the kind of the regional formal agreement that drive or that's motivate what we are having now in the Pacific in relation to at the individual country level in relation to how we manage our coastal fisheries. And recently we also have the Pacific Framework for Action on Scaling Up Community-Based Fisheries Management 2021 to 2025. And these are whole have a good mention of how communities, so they provide guidelines on how we could, at the national level, work with communities to manage the fisheries. Yeah, so what's happening so far? And I think that that's much more of the outcome of a new song for coastal fisheries, Pathway to Change. Is that there's a strong call for appropriate and up-to-date supporting legislation. And as we all know, our legislation, fisheries legislations at the national level are so much like regional agencies focus on the management and development of the oceanic fisheries and less for the coastal fisheries. So there has been a strong call to up-to-date updates the legislations, and community was also well, the recall was to have these legislations updated to support community or to empower the communities to also be part of the fisheries management. So with that, more than I say 70% or 17 out of 22 Pacific Island countries have their legislations updated, and more than 600 CPFMs or community-based fisheries management being developed in 18 out of 22 Pacific Island countries. And if there may be more updated information on this, but this is and there's a reference to that. But work at the national level continue to work with the community levels to create and develop CPFMs, which is a good result. Maybe too early at this stage to realize the gains and benefits of co-management or CPFMs because of the maybe most of the CPFMs in the that we have in the Pacific are too young and new, and it takes time. As you know, it also takes time for the fishery to recover. So, but what we expect from co-management, what we expect to come out from them are gains in relation to, or benefit in relation to environmental gains, social gains, economic gains. Environmental gains because, and this is, I think we can reflect on maybe half or more than half of the CPFMs that have been developed in the Pacific closed or protected marine area. So that would be a benefit to the environment. Social gains, the community, women, youth have been empowered, not only and by law, they've been recognized as part of the, and have given the authority to also co-share responsibility to manage their fishery. So that's economic gains, also because of the through co-management approach, government is now working with the private institutions, working with the communities to elevate or generate or provide incentive that would be able to generate income for the Pacific at the grassroots level. But still yet to be seen. There are also potential limitations of coastal, of co-management approach, and I adopted this list, some of this list from this resource, enabling or legal guide to enabling and strengthening coastal fisheries co-management in the Pacific. And I have to say that all of this, SPC is a lead regional agency that has been helping and supporting Pacific Island countries to in the development of their CPFMs. Oh, sorry. So potential limitations of co-management. Or the CPFMs, some of them may not be suitable for every fishing community. It also requires leadership and appropriate local institution, which may not exist in some communities. The initial investment cost required to establish the co-management in the short term is really high. And as we heard earlier, the financial at the capital, most community at the community level of the local councils, they don't have the finance or the capital to support their work in relation to management of the fishery. Possible risk of misalignment with changing strategies and policies, and this is happening everywhere. And especially because government change, priorities change, and so that's a real challenge. Sufficient political will may not exist, and this is also the great challenge at the community level. I think the major one is related to the capacity and capability needed for effective implementation, which while the laws are there, the legislation are there to support them, at the national level, we don't have the right capacity and capability to implement those. Agreement by consensus, usually lengthy decision-making process, but it's necessary. And unbalanced sharing of power between government and community. So this is still happening. And the last one is political influence. There's more to the list in this reference, but I picked some of the limitations that might be useful to discuss here. So where we are with our CPFMs, and assessing CPFM success through smart mixes. And the real question is, have they proven to maintain the balance for sustainability and use? And this is my personal assessment or observation on how or where we are with our of how where we want to see things change at the community, at the coastal fisheries, the management of coastal fisheries. So there are 3 levels. There's supra community level, and this is external factors that are out of the community. Some of it are related to enabling legislation, governments, markets, demographic factors, and technology change. And I put medium to high there because of, I think, for a start, at the national level, we are having good legislations, maybe not all of them, but most of them, they are having good legislations to support and recognize the role of communities. So that has been a change. So that has been a positive change that influenced the improvement in the legislation. How this is applied, and I like the question that was raised earlier, how we implement or how we put sustainability, what we put on paper for sustainability into actions. And that's where we will see it at the community level and in the individual level. Community level are the conditions within the community. This can be physical and social environment, infrastructure, and capacity and capability of the community. So I kind of rated that as low to medium. It can be different to each of the individual countries. It can be different to each of the capacities that are available within the different levels of community, and also at the individual level. And that's are the conditions at the individual and household level. And usually we have different interests. Greed was mentioned earlier, so that is always the factors that are influencing individual decision making at a household level, how we influence our decision to be compliant or not when we go at sea. So I put that as a low, and Nick mentioned what we want to see from compliance perspective to kind of instill or motivate voluntary compliance at the individual level, because the capacity to comply, the capacity of our MCS team throughout the Pacific is really limited, and that's not because of the skills. It may be a combination, but not only the skills that they have, the capacity that they have, but also in relation to the number of the capacity in relation to the number to manage the whole fisheries area. So I put that low. You can agree with me or disagree, but this is my observation. Why I rated those as they are is because of this. Challenge and issues remain. Overfishing still happening. There are pictures there. One in the Solomon Islands and one in Kiribati. In Kiribati, it's a picture there is the catch, including small size fish, and it's only from 2 fishermen. And although there's clear management measure available for coastal fisheries and in this species, a particular species, but we are still facing this. Our fisheries officers, compliance officers are facing, they continue to face this challenge. Population continues to increase, so that's also the challenge. Climate change, very new, but it's we do realize that continue to be a challenge. Uncertainty about the fishery, always a problem, and because of the limited data that we have, so difficult to manage. And the main one is limited capacity and capability, and previous speakers have spoken on this. So yeah, but I also want to reiterate that this is the main issue, and it's an issue at all levels, all levels, individual, household, community, government level. So this remains to be a challenge. In addition to that is the inadequate enabling facilities or the infrastructure. So there was a question earlier about the ability, or the ability to access the fishery, but that most of the Pacific Island countries, they don't have the appropriate facilities or infrastructure to enable them to develop their fisheries. Not only to develop, but also to manage the fisheries. And of course, there's always an imbalance between the domestic and versus the foreign industries. And because of, in the Pacific, that's the nature of how it is. There's always interest from industries. And because we don't have the capacity to fish our waters, there's always interest from foreign, foreign may not be the right word, but industries to fish, and that always been, there has been kind of claims that the industries, big industries, that have implications on the resources that we fish domestically. Opportunities that would on how, or maybe how we could do more things. A partnership and collaboration, and we all know about one of the, and in relation to capacity and capability development support, we all know about SPC and FFA, but the Batui is also a program that also provide capacity building support for the Pacific administrations. And the second one is financial support and donors, and we all know that fisheries in the Pacific is a crowded area. There's a lot of interest, support for funding, but there's lack of coordination on how we could better use or better manage these fundings to support what we really need at the national level. So those are the opportunities and something that can be improved at the regional level. There's always need and opportunity to improve data and science for decision making, governance for better coordination needed at all levels, and also research for innovative approaches. And there's also a presentation earlier on how innovation approaches at the community level on aquaculture development. So that aquaculture is something that is kind of new at the Pacific level, and it's being, I think it's still under kind of a research space. But there's an opportunity there to kind of remove the pressure from maybe the wild coastal fisheries to focus on the development of aquaculture and contribute to food security issue. Skill and technology between Pacific Island countries, that also an area or an opportunity that can be explored, and I know that some of this at the SPC level has also been discussed. So, but there's that also an opportunity. Some conclusions. As we know, complex fisheries system is complex. There's no single management measure and policy fit for all. There has been an evolving approach from state to control to co-management, 2000, and also I say 2003 to 2015. There has been government at the national level has played very important role in managing their fishery prior to 2003, but it's a good thing now that there's a regional policy, and SBC is now there to support countries as well. With a new approach, I guess the future of Pacific fisheries has been focused now on the co-management, or CPFM, with regional and national government support. And the main thing, the new song for coastal fisheries, and I see that as been an innovative approach to influence improvement in the legislation. CPFM challenges, as mentioned earlier, remains to be a challenge: capacity and capability, and of course opportunity to continue to engage and develop or think of new innovative approaches, better coordination, perhaps through smart mixes. So are we there yet? More work is needed to achieve achieve the balance between sustainability and use. So thank you. That's me.